Okay.
At this point, I had my high school diploma. I got all A's, because I only took easy stuff.
Oh, please.
So I got, she said, well, let's look it up. Let's see what we have to do. So she said, well, you need 2 math courses, 2 science courses, and 1 language course. You think you could do that in a year? Because I was already graduated. So my mother arranged with a friend to enroll me in a high school in Buffalo. So I rode to Buffalo in my friend's car. He was like a boyfriend. He was going to the University of Buffalo. So
Slug?
This was Archie. And so he drove me every morning, let me off at the front door. I went in, I took geometry, physics, chemistry, and before I got there I took algebra, and I took, geometry. I took about 5 courses in a year, and the final exam all came the same day.
Wow.
That was a doozy, because there are 3-hour exams. You're not allowed to leave the room, and you don't know ahead of time what's going to be on the exam. It's a statewide exam. It's fashioned in Albany, and most of the answers would be factual, no essay things. But with geometry and physics and chemistry, it has to be. So I sat all day long taking exams. I'll never forget it. I don't think I had a bite to eat or anything to drink. But I got 99, 98 in almost all of them. Yeah, I got really, really good grades. So that meant that I could go to Cornell. But then I had to write the essay. I had to get some recommendations from people. But that was pretty easy. So
what was your essay on?
Why I thought I would be a good candidate. And see, I was applying to the College of Home Economics, and I told them how I could run a household and keep everything together because of the personal experience I had with my Aunt Flora and her 3 kids. I ran their house for a whole summer, and I took care of the children. I did everything that was needed, and I did very well, I thought. And she did too. So she paid me because she had married my Uncle Charlie, who was a farmer, and she was a businesswoman, had been working in the stock exchange in Buffalo. So they asked her to come back and substitute for a person that was going on leave, and she jumped at the chance. But who would take care of her husband and her 3 kids? So Henrietta was right there. She asked me, and I said, well, I would try. And at this point, let's say if it was Roger was born in 1933. This would have been say Roger was 7 years old, Betty was 6 years old, and Carlton was 5. And they were a handful. And
so it was 1940 then?
Yeah, I graduated from high school in 1940. I took all these classes in...
So you graduated from high school, then you took care of Aunt Flora's house in the summer, and then you went and...
Then I applied to Cornell, and I got there. I was there for Pearl Harbor, 1941. I remember Pearl Harbor. I had just gotten to Cornell, and we heard what had happened, and it changed everything. I still took the same courses, but the curriculum changed because they started taking ROTC. They had reserve officers training. They had all sorts of courses, especially for inductees. And
wow.
But the home ec thing was that they had to prepare dietitians and nurses and people to man the home front, whereas people were busy fighting or working in defense plants. And so their technical people in, let's say, the foods and nutrition area were much needed. So that's why we were encouraged. I went through college in 3 years instead of 4. By going all year round, you never had a vacation. But it didn't hurt me. It was, good motivation.
And was Super Graham not glad to see you go, but was she supportive of you going to Buffalo and going to Cornell?
Oh yeah, she was thrilled. Yeah, and then the interesting thing was that she had no future in Brant since she couldn't teach anymore, and so she had friends in Ithaca from the standpoint that my Aunt May had gone to college there, or rather it was a music school, because Aunt May was sickly. She was, before they knew about allergies, she was a sickly baby, and she couldn't tolerate milk. I was told that they had to boil rice, and she drank the water from the rice was cooked in. She couldn't tolerate milk or dairy, and they didn't know what to do with those. So she was sickly. So they didn't think she'd ever get married, but she was a health risk, so they sent her to a music school. She learned to be a music teacher. It's now called Ithaca College, but it was Ithaca Conservatory. So she made a lot of friends while she was living there, and so my mother knew all these people that were friends of her sisters. So when I went to college, my mother came too and rented a house, and I lived at home. As opposed to living in a dorm, because we couldn't have afforded the dorm. But it was a good move on her part, because she was there with me. But then one time, about my 3rd year, my grandfather got very, very sick, and he eventually died. And my Aunt May needed my mother to come home and help take care of him, because they wouldn't have put him in a hospital or a nursing home. So he was there, and a large man, hard to lift and handle. So my mother did go home, but for I guess about 2 or 3 years, she was there, and she got a job, a very good job.
Doing what?
She worked in the cafeteria. She made friends, but the good thing was she suddenly got a Social Security number. So that kept her going the last few years of her life.
No.
She would never have had that, but she stood in Brant, stayed in Brant. But my college years were kind of different from the normal kid who lives in a dormitory and maybe joins a sorority. I didn't have any close ties, but I made a lot of friends.
Did Super Graham ever date anybody or have a boyfriend after
Oh,
your death?
yeah. She had plenty of them.
But she never married again?
She never wanted to get married because the one boyfriend had a son who hated me and I hated him. But we could have I think we should have been nice to each other, but they thought that if they married, it would be miserable for the kids. So they sacrificed their own happiness for us. I guess it would amount to that. But she went with a man who was... See, when I went to the school in Angola, I was able to get flute lessons, so I learned to play the flute. So I was in band, and the band practiced Friday night after school, so my mother would have to come and get me fairly late Friday, and it was winter, and it was dark, and her car stalled in front of the building. She's waiting for me to come out. She couldn't get her car started. I don't know if it was frozen or what. But some nice man nearby